What frick ups in the gaming industry bothers you? I hated how games became extremely hostile to the play with your friends in the same dang room as you model. As such, I now have an extensive board game collection, and am much happier for it. Holy crap, you just explained it so well. That's why all of my gamer friends are getting into board games too. It's because they fricked over our 10-hour in-house multiplayer marathons. The whole freemium concept. I hate buying gems or stones or crystals or fluffies or WTF ever it is that is required for me to get the awesome crap. How about I just give you the $30 this game is worth and then you give me all of the crap, instead of slowly pulling thousands of dollars from me because I want the good crap. The concept of season pass or monthly access to DLC. It puts the cart before the horse in terms of innovation. Why push for the best when you already have been rewarded for not putting out the work but merely hype and marketing? I don't feel as if the AAA, edit, just AAA, but I will keep my typo, game industry is progressing artistically. I feel as if most AAA games are like Hollywood blockbusters. And since they have a formula, they all feel the same. The mechanics across games are very similar, and I don't feel as if I have had a unique experience with anything that isn't an indie game. They're too afraid to innovate anymore. Non-skippable cutscenes, awkward control layout, infrequent save points, lens flare, cheating AI, bad voice acting, but most of all, stories that make no freaking sense, aka, we spent a fortune developing this level and goddamn it we're going to use it. There's a million unemployed writers out there. You can't take a couple grand and hire somebody who can write a good story? Ugh, I hate the unskippable cutscenes, especially in games where it goes through it every time you have to restart a level, particularly one that is uber tough boss level, so you're constantly dying and restarting. Bam. Here's our cutscene again. Frick off, I know this already. Let me go. The perceived expendability of game developers. I've been in the game industry for 20 years now. I moved across the country for my last project, where I worked for almost 6 years. My wife got a good job, we bought a house, we developed a group of friends, and we built a life. I put off vacations to ship the game on time. I worked lots of overtime, and then I was laid off 6 months after the game shipped because it wasn't doing as well as it should have been. Not my fault, it failed strictly because of upper management, but I paid the price. Suddenly I was let go with 1 month of severance. I got a new job about a month and a half later, but it's halfway across the country. I had to sell my house and leave all of my friends. The sad thing is that this is considered to be normal for the game industry. I know many people to whom this has happened multiple times. That's fricked up. The game industry is bigger than the movie industry, but because we aren't unionized, we're treated like expendable cogs. The people that screwed up, the ones that should be responsible for the game's failure, are generally the last ones let go. I love the game industry, but I'm ready for it to grow the heck up. I've always felt conflicted with this. I'd love to work in the games industry, but it pretty much suffers from the exact same problem as Google, the fact that there's a line of people out the door waiting to do your job, and chances are they can either do it better or will do it for less than you. Employees need some sort of protection from this crap. Pay to win. Pre-ordering anything. Not making any couch coop games anymore. And frick them with a shovel. Twice. For that last one. That last part, man. At least Nintendo has kept up with couch cooperative. Always on DRM for single player games. Or really for any games that aren't obviously multiplayer only. Steam manages to do DRM right. Why can't the rest of you people? Why gaming companies don't allow their old games to be more easily accessible to modern gamers. For example, Nintendo should offer a Netflix-like service to gamers, giving them the full N64 catalog or Super Nintendo catalog. Cheap service for us, and would get me back on Nintendo's side for sure. Nintendo Wii and Wii U have a virtual console where you can pay money to download older games from NES Game Boy Advance to your console. The only problem is the games they put on there are handpicked. They have promised N64 games on there, but they haven't mentioned anything of it since. Really tired of the push to pre-orders and how encouraged you are to do so. Get this exclusive content only by pre-order, then get certain content from certain stores. Pre-order DLC. Pre-order the season pass. Then the game doesn't work at launch, or is so buggy I have to wait for a fix by the publisher. I was burned by SimCity. I refuse to pre-order. With all their crap that happened in 2014 and 2013, I really hope the gaming community is waking up. Being encouraged to pre-order games that won't work at launch is a short-sighted business plan. Your fans don't forget, and the casual user will swear off touching future installments of your franchises. Pre-order bonuses and the ridiculous state of microtransactions in some games. They're both cash grabs that largely don't benefit the customer in any way. When you're already paying full price for a game, you should get the whole game. Free-to-play games and non-subscription MMOs are different, of course, though I still think there are ways to do microtransactions very poorly in those too. Nintendo makes me really sad. They can still produce some great games and I look forward to things that are in the pipeline, but they just can't seem to make a console that third parties want to develop on. Wacky control schemes and underpowered hardware have just made it too much work to port games over. With the recent mummerings of the NX, assuming it will be a console as we understand it today, I worry that Nintendo is going to continue to frick something up and continue its downward trend. Games that take years of work to create and then are cancelled just before being launched or taken off shelves shortly after launch. I don't care if I can't play a game. What pisses me off is the idea that people spent years on these games and their entire work was for nothing. Not that it makes it any better, but most industries have something like this. It just blows my mind how much money is wasted and thrown away due to things like this. Freaking DRM, man. DRM all over. Even Nintendo's jumping the bandwagon. I have sincere doubts over whether it even helps their bottom line, since there are people who absolutely hate DRM and won't buy games with it, and supporting it costs additional money. Plus, as far as I know, a lot of this DRM gets cracked anyway. Nintendo has always had DRM. Every NES cartridge had a chip in it that told the console that the cart was genuine. Without the chip, the game wouldn't work. That's why pirated carts were so rare. When a AAA release is not 100% polished, it really bothers me. If a dev team wants to take extra time to make sure that the game is ready and glitch free, that's very okay with me. I remember playing Assassin's Creed 3 right as it came out and I had to stop a few times because of glitches. That kind of stuff just gets under my skin. They somehow were able to make the Revolutionary War so terribly boring as well. Spore was the last computer game I ever got excited for. I'm not much for video games, was always one of those play one game and master it types, like StarCraft or Diablo or Super Smash or Soldier of Fortune. This game though, holy frick, thought it would be the game to end all games. Nope, not even close. Everything we thought it would be, they got rid of or just plain fricked up. Yay. Spore was a huge disappointment to me. I was expecting the camera to just keep zooming out when I was a microorganism, then to advance through all stages of technology when I hit the tribal stage. By the time I finished the tribal stage I was already kinda disappointed. Then the ultimate point, the space game, was kinda dull. Make money, kill the Grox or whatever their name was, K. How every mobile game adaptation from a PC or console, not the direct ports mind you, is buy more lives, wait until you convince your Facebook friends to play, having fun, enjoy this nearly impossible level, but it's super easy with this $3 pesos power up, oh done out of lives, beg Facebook, have you thought about adding US on Facebook? All I want is a mobile version of my favorite games. I can pay my $5-10 for that, won't harass me to play it, instead of trying to milk me for a microtransaction or Facebook interaction every 2-5 minutes. Basically everything Ubisoft is doing nowadays. Rushing out sequels, no bug testing, overhyping new games, forcing the use of their crappy Uplay system, freaking microtransactions. There was a time when I loved Ubisoft, but that is not this day. Remember Star Wars Galaxy? Remember when they did the CU and NGE and essentially killed one of the best MMOs in a long time? Such a huge fuck up. God, it was all downhill from there. The crappy anyone can be a Jedi expansion. The crappy let's shoehorn in a 4,000-year-old character for no discernible reason other than he's popular expansion. Independent game developers abusing the DMCA takedown when faced with criticism. TotalBiscuit did a review of Day 1, Gary's Incident. The game developers put a copyright claim on his review in an attempt to censor him, after saying how horrendous the game was. Jim Sterling. After his negative review of The Slaughtering Grounds, the developer actually did a review of his review, which prompted Sterling to do a review of their review, and the developer did a review of that review. It was clear they had no control of themselves, then filed copyright claim on the original review. He also faced the same situation with the game Skate Man Intent Rescue, having a copyright claim on his review. Even though this is a really serious issue, I couldn't help but lose it at Jim fricking Sterling's son. Blatantly lying about in-game content. Egg. E3 demo shows an amazing game. Then none of that content is in the game. DLC that is includes in the game already, but you have to pay to unlock it. DLC that is only available for ordering the game at a certain store. Pretty much Destiny and how they presented it and etc. Made me lose faith in a lot of game devs and publishers. Freaking Watch Dogs. Game reviewers that get paid to review the game, and then when the game is a pile of crap the game reviewers blame the players. Game reviewers that are paid to review a game on YouTube, and then make long-winded rants about how it is wrong to be paid to review games. Mega Man Legends 3 was cancelled because fans didn't want it enough. The Last Guardian took too long to develop. Now even if it was released it won't have anything to say that other games aren't already doing better. The It's Just a Game crowd and the effect their willingness to deal with bulls has had on the industry. A company does something crappy, delays a release a bunch of times, cuts a feature, has a predatory pre-order scheme, misrepresents their games and trailers, releases the game in a broken state, etc. And then a bunch of apologists call the people complaining about it nerds and scream it's just a game. Sure, it's just a game, but they also cost $60 a pop, and if I'm invested enough to drop that much cash on it, of course I'm invested enough to be annoyed when the product I get is not what was advertised. It's a product, guys, and it's not a cheap one. It is not pedantic to have an expectation of honesty and follow through from the company making the product you are purchasing. The fact I'm subjected to 20-30 seconds of ads before I'm even able to play a game I already paid for, 5 seconds of publisher logo, 5 seconds of the developer's logo, 5 seconds of the engine's logo, 5 seconds of Nvidia ATI logo, 5 seconds of plays best on Alienware etc. Since Battlefield 2 I've been actively seeking movie pack files to delete just so I can play the dang game without waiting. After first startup now, they let you hit space or escape to skip them now. Freaking one-man indie games are more polished and original than multi-million budget AAA games. Everyone seems to be so scared about doing so original, and I am bored of playing same Assassin's Creed or FPS game every year with different setting. Besiege is like that, so well stylized and getting updates every few weeks. But it's made by a studio of 5 people, early access and only $6 freaking dollars. I have had more replay value in that than I have had in a AAA game in a long time. Selling incomplete or broken games, promising to fix them later, and never truly fixing it. Cough Master Chief Collection cough. Games like Destiny that don't have an offline mode, meaning the game is unplayable if their servers are fricked. PSN is down, or I want to take my PS4 to the ungodly place that is my father-in-law's internet free shack in the middle of fucksticks, España. The fact that the age of the RPG has all but dwindled and Final Fantasy and the Tales games are essentially the only ones holding the weight on their shoulders. I want my golden age of RPGs to come back. Don't forget about Bethesda. The gaming community has been hearing winds of a new Fallout for some time now. What Destiny was supposed to be versus what ended up being released. The destruction of the Call of Duty series, starting with MW2 leading up to garbage that is Advanced Warfare, BO2 being the obvious outlier. The destruction of the Halo series. Basically FPS has really gone to crap. All of the DLC season passes, a lot of the time they literally hold back content just so they can tack it on as day one DLC. What the frick happened to unlocking stuff? If it was like a massive batch of new levels and stuff, I'd understand, but don't start charging me for skins or weapons. That should always be unlockable. Evolve is very clearly guilty of this. Just like Titanfall and Destiny, it's a mediocre overhyped piece of crap that they decided $60 wasn't enough. So they decided to make the full experience cost $120. What the frick? DLC. I was talking about this with a friend the other day, and I remember the old Spider-Man game for PS1. In it you could use cheat codes to gain access to other skins, but these days it would cost like £2.99 each. It makes me sad. To be clear, I like expansions, where you get plenty of content and extra story for your money, and to be fair, some DLC these days could be considered an expansion. I just hate the pay £12 and get these 3 weapon skins kind of crap. It's not so much a frick up from the business perspective because it's working perfectly for them. In fact, you can kind of say the consumers fricked up. Publishers are killing us with the additional subscription services. I think Call of Duty Elite was one of the first ones to start to trend. After that made them a shitload of money. It seems like everyone is doing something similar. Sure, in some cases you can argue that it saves the customer money overall, but that's only if the person was already planning on purchasing every little thing for the game anyway. Not to mention that a lot of times you're paying for content before you even know what it is, yet people eat that crap up. Nothing like paying $120 for a game up front. I hate it when shooter games have areas where the hitboxes are too big or too small, and whenever objects that you can't shoot through have bigger areas that you can't shoot through than from what you can see, and it feels as if you should be hitting your shots but the invisible hitboxes are stopping them. For example, some rocks on some maps on BF Hardline look like they can be shot around at angles, but they can't because you are hitting the hotbox of the rock. I hope that made sense. CS:GO has that pretty much fixed. Any nook or cranny can be shot through and is usually used as a tactical advantage in the 5v5 competitive matches. Halo Master Chief Collection. No explanation needed. I haven't turned on my Xbox in months. That failure pushed me to stick with PC for good. It's still not even fully functioning and it's been out since November. What the frick? MCC has definitely improved now and is a lot of fun. I'd try it again if I were you. A gamer culture based almost entirely on hating and bitching about the medium they supposedly love. Whether it's PC gamers looking down on and hating console gamers or people flipping the frick out over a sequel existing or not existing, it's just such a negative fricking community. Instead of people enjoying a common form of entertainment, it is largely a group of entitled brats complaining about the one thing wrong instead of the everything else that is right. But this thread is entirely full of people doing just that. A lot of games nowadays are just the same tired out box of toys. Also, it pisses me off when an FPS has like 60 bajillion rifles, but God forbid they have more than 4 shotguns. But compare amazing late 90s early 2000s PC games to the crap we have now. Those were full and true gameplay experiences and not chocked on with DLC. I'm talking about stuff like System Shock 2, Half-Life, Thief, the original Hitman games, early Tom Clancy games, ect. I really wish we had more games that followed those solid formulas. It's called pre-order. Essentially it gives money to developers early on, so they do not have to put effort in delivering any form of quality when the time comes. Spore. What was initially shown and what we eventually got were 2 different games. It was the day that EA went on my blacklist. Honestly speaking, that a lot of games aren't made to be fun anymore. It's all about that Christmas deadline now. But if you gave developers as much time as they wanted to push out a polished game, I would be completely okay with that instead of getting these half-assed Mass Effect 3 pieces, Knights of the Old Republic 2 of Dragon Age 2 crap. Matrix Online. Such an awesome premise and game as well. Loved the combat system. However, at some point they fired pretty much all the developers except a small handful, so moved in and pretty much just dropped the game entirely. I think the game ended with only one developer doing the work of what was supposed to be 20+. Every game for the next gen consoles seem to be running very poorly. It seems like every title has its own small or big issues. I never experienced anything like it on the previous gens, and I think it's ridiculous that we have to pay so much for this trash. Duke Nukem Forever. Half-Life 2 still remains a cliffhanger. Wii U name and marketing ensuring low popularity, and also that Nintendo keeps releasing games for it that doesn't really take advantage of the tablet controller or motion controls, which summed up makes it a GameCube with more power. Age of Conan's early days of flaws and lacking content, and the enduring mark of being a poor game. Sega and Sonic's demise. How can they still be in business? The end of ME3 and the shoehorned in photo of Taylor's face. They had a beautiful opportunity to reveal what she looked like for the first time as she took off her mask to look at her home planet. Instead they cut away and give you a 4-pixel picture on a desk to rub salt in the wound. The entire end to ME3 was a disaster. 120 plus hours of gameplay across 3 games wasted. When a fan theory about indoctrination is better and more logical coherent than the ending you provided, you've done something wrong. Also, this was clearly a game that deserved to have some epilogue about the characters, who were still alive. Even if it was just a chance to read some codex entries that told you a bit about what happened to them would have been good. Honorable mention goes to Deus Ex: Human Revolutions. Once again a horribly mismanaged ending. You get 3 choices. Each gives you an almost identical 45-second cutscene. And that's it. You're done. You don't know what happened to anyone. Apparently you're just not supposed to care anymore. This one bothered me a lot because it would have been so easy to include a satisfying little wrap up. After the video and credits, it cuts back to you and Control in your office. You can walk around the buildings talking to the main characters, reading some emails, and finding out a bit about what happened. Then you walk out the front doors and it fades away, leaving an opening for a sequel. All they needed to do was write and record some dialogue and maybe write some emails. Early alpha. By the time the game is actually released, I've already put up with your buggy piece of crap game and moved on. Honestly, I feel insulted when companies put out the same game every year. A football game from a year ago has very little difference to one from this year. The point of the annual update on sports games is the team rosters. Players get traded, drafted, and that changes the way the teams perform. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.